Hi, my name is Stasia Orkwiszewski and I am the Gardens Manager for University of Montana Campus Dining. We're here at the beautiful South Ave Garden in the Iron Grizz to learn about weed identification and management. So there's a variety of garden tools that you can use to make weed removal easier. The common garden trowel is great for shallowly rooted weeds. We have the Cobra, which is awesome for tap roots. It helps you get way down in there and dig it up from the base. And then my favorite hand tool is the Japanese garden knife, or hori hori. It not only looks cool, but it has a nice sharper edge that helps you get down to the roots easier, cuts through the soil, and you also have a saw blade, so if there's anything really stubborn, you can just cut right through it. It's awesome. And then we have some longer handle tools that are important. The garden fork, this is going to be really important for digging out rhizomatous roots, which we'll show you in a little bit. And then probably the tool that I use the most here at the South Ave Garden, this is called a hula hoe or a stirrup hoe, and it has a little blade here that you drag along the soil, and that cuts off weeds right below the soil line, and we'll show you how all of these work. So I'm going to show you proper hula hoe technique, and I wanted to mention that it's worthwhile to invest in a good quality hula hoe from a seed company and not get one from a local hardware store. I've made that mistake at my house. This is about $50. It's from a seed company. I bought a $25 one from a hardware store nearby, and I really wish that I had one this good for my house. So with the hula hoe, if you have any kind of significant garden space, it's great to have, and it's worthwhile to invest in a better one. And so the way you use it is kind of like a vacuum cleaner. You want to put it so it just cuts right under the soil, and then we cut all the weeds right under the soil line. And it's also useful, even if you don't see weeds, to pass it over the soil, because you'll help disrupt anything that's germinating. And the force you want to use really varies with your soil quality, with how wet it is, with what kind of weeds you have, but you don't want to be super aggressive and destroy your beds or disrupt your soil too much, but you also don't want to have too light of a touch because you won't get anything done. So it's a nice centimeter or two below the soil line kind of level. And it's also useful to work backwards, because if I hula hoe and I'm going forwards, I'm just going to step right into all the weeds that I just weeded and help them reroot. So always want to be hula hoeing backwards. So this is garden enemy number one. This is quackgrass. And this is a grass that grows rhizomatously, which means it's not effective to weed it from just the surface level. And a rhizome is a stem that grows laterally under the ground and produces new shoots and new roots. And you'll see that in 1 second. So this is a two-part process. First, it helps to loosen up the soil with a fork, so you can really get in there. And then you go in with your preferred hand tool and gently get underneath. As you can see, we have all these rhizomes underneath the soil. And to the best of your ability, you want to be gentle, not break them, and get out as much as you possibly can, because anything that's left in there will produce more quackgrass. And I haven't found victory with hand removing quackgrass. It's really just a management kind of tactic. So get out as much as you can. And then you want to throw this in the garbage, not in your compost pile, because these, once they dry out, they can be dormant for up to 6 months. So if you put this in your compost, then you'll just have quackgrass growing in your compost pile, which would be really sad. So right in the garbage, and that's quackgrass. Okay, so this is bindweed, which is it's up there with quackgrass in terms of a problematic weed to have in the garden. It grows really quickly. It will climb up all of the bigger plants that you have. It will smother your plants. It makes these really cute little pink morning glory looking flowers. But unfortunately, we want to get rid of it. And this is another one that grows rhizomatously, and these rhizomes are harder to get at than the quackgrass. They're just finer, it makes more, they're really all over the place. So instead of pulling it out from the roots, we usually end up hula hoeing just at the surface. And this doesn't get rid of bindweed for the long term, but it does make it manageable so it doesn't destroy our crop. So this is called lamb's quarter. It's really common here in Missoula. This is a wild spinach relative. It's really easy to pull up. If you just have a couple, you can use a hand tool. If you have many, you can use the hula hoe. And this is actually a superfood. It's really nutritious, so it's a wonderful free addition to salad. So this is one that everyone can recognize probably. These are dandelions, really distinctive leaves and yellow flowers. I am actually a big fan of dandelions because they're a good source of early bee food when there's not a lot of other flowers out, and they have a big thick taproot that helps draw nutrients up from lower down in the soil so other plants have access to it. And also, unless you really don't pull them ever, they're not going to take over your garden. But we do end up removing some, and this is the same. You could use your cobra or your trowel or your hori-hori, and they have a nice thick taproot, so you really want to get in there. And then you see I broke part of it off, so that wasn't ideal, but that'll still be okay. And then dandelion greens are really nutritious. They're a little bitter, another great thing to add to salad. The roots are medicinal, and I know people make wine out of the dandelion flowers, so this is really a very useful plant. This is plantain. You'll find this all over. This is another kind of taprooty weed, so get at it with your hand tool. You can also hula hoe it if they're smaller. That's no problem. And these have an amazing medicinal property. If you are sure that they're from an area that wasn't sprayed, if you get a bee or a hornet sting, you can chew up one of the leaves and make it into a poultice and apply it to the sting site, and that will reduce the inflammation. So it's useful to have a couple around if you're in the garden, just in case you get stung. So this is black medic, and it's easily identifiable by the little yellow flowers and the clovery looking leaves. This is actually one that I, if given the option, will leave in the garden. This is a leguminous nitrogen fixer, and it was actually the first cover crop that was officially used in Montana. It's mentioned in the book Lentil Underground. But if you want to get rid of it, that's just fine. It's good to take a sharp tool. It has a pretty firm little taproot. So just go from the middle where all the stems radiate out from and give it a pull. Done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful and that you're ready to peacefully coexist with all the weeds in your garden.